Welcome to the Wall Street Wish List, an investment shopping list from seasoned analysts. And each of the analysts featured today are from Noble Capital Markets, an SEC-registered, FINRA-licensed broker-dealer. Before I introduce the analysts, I want to remind you that this program is provided for informational purposes only, and none of the content should be interpreted as a recommendation or solicitation to buy or sell securities. Investment decisions must be made by you or with the support of your financial advisor. A complete disclosure statement follows each analyst presentation. Let's get going. Robert LeBoyer is a senior equity analyst covering biotechnology and specialty pharmaceuticals. Robert has more than 16 years of industry experience and an MBA from Columbia Business School. Please welcome Robert LeBoyer.
Hi, I'm Robert LeBoyer, senior biotechnology analyst at Noble Capital. I follow the biotechnology industry with a focus on the small and medium-sized companies that are in development stages for drugs that treat cancer, infectious disease, and metabolic disorders. The biotech sector got a lot of attention during the pandemic, and from 2020 to 21 was doing very well. But then as the market started to top out and technology and healthcare started to decline, the small cap biotech group declined even more. We're now at the point where there are many companies in the small cap group that are trading at or near 52-week lows or at small multiples of cash value. And this is significant because the companies are typically valued on their future earnings and what the products in development can earn. But one of the measures that's used in a declining or a bearish market for the group is the technology value and the cash value. When one subtracts the amount of cash on hand, you get the technology value, which in some cases is zero or negative. And there are many companies in the small and micro cap group that are trading under their cash value per share. So this is essentially nothing for the technology and what these products can earn. One of the reasons is that most of these companies are started and will raise enough equity to develop their products, expecting to raise capital again after the products reach the next stage in development and have a higher valuation. But due to the current market, the window for financing has made for a very negative environment. And with prices declining, the prospect of higher dilution than expected has put a drag on the small cap market. So we're now faced with a situation where there are companies that are making fundamental progress. Some will need to raise money in the next year, but there are several that I'm going to mention that have enough cash to reach their milestones and get through at least 1 to 2 years without additional fundraising. The first company that I'd like to mention is PDS Biotechnology. It trades under the symbol PDSB and has a market cap of about 275 to 300 million. I rated outperform and have a price target of $19. The company is developing immunotherapies that stimulate the immune system to recognize and kill cancer cells. Their proprietary technology is called Versamune, and this is a technology that acts as a carrier to deliver antigens, the unique cellular markers that can identify a cell as foreign or cancerous. And these are delivered to the immune system to allow it to recognize cancerous cells. This will stimulate the production of cells that can kill the cancer and is the first drug from the platform, PDS 0101, is being tested in several trials for HPV-associated cancer. This is a type of cancer that is associated with the human papilloma virus and is often found in cervical variants of head and neck cancer, vaginal, anal, and penile cancer. The trials for PDS-0101 use a checkpoint inhibitor in combination with PDS-0101. And the idea here is that checkpoint inhibitors are a category of immunotherapy that allow the immune system to recognize the tumor and will defeat the mechanisms that will evade the immune system and allow the cancer to survive. By giving drugs like Keytruda and Opdivo, the immune system can recognize the cancer cell, but when they work, they're very effective. However, the response rate is not that good in many tumor types. One of the reasons for this is that the immune system doesn't have enough killing cells at the tumor site to carry out the killing cells, the killing stages, once the immune system recognizes it. The first trial for PDS-0101 was tested in head and neck cancer, in which the drug was given with Keytruda, Merck's checkpoint inhibitor, that is a monoclonal antibody against the marker known as PD-1. And the Keytruda step will allow the tumor to be recognized. PDS-0101 stimulates an immune response in the patient so that there are enough immune cells to kill the tumor. The phase 2 trial using these two drugs presented data in May at the American Society of Clinical Oncology meeting. The survival that they found was dramatically better than anything that had been seen in monotherapy with either drugs, showing that the combination and the two-step approach is effective in killing the cancers. Following this presentation, the company met with the FDA and held an end of phase 2 meeting, determining the steps for a phase 3 trial that would lead to approval. The company is now planning to start that trial earlier than expected in 2023 and is in the stages of finalizing the protocols to start the trial. That is one of the things that's been driving the stock lately, as well as some of their other clinical trials that show PDS-0101 in combination with other drugs. There is a trial being run at the National Cancer Institute of the National Institutes of Health, one of the most highly regarded research institutions in the country, in which they're testing PDS-0101 in combination with a checkpoint inhibitor, as well as an IL that will change the balance of the immune system in favor of killing and against suppression of the immune system. So this triple combination also presented data at the ASCO conference and showed that the markers for killing tumor cells, stimulating the immune response, and long-term immune memory all showed efficacy. And survival in this trial also has been better than seen to date. The company is moving forward with trials not only in head and neck cancer, but in all tumor types to get a broad approval from the FDA when the phase 3 is completed. One other interesting trial, known as ImmunoServe, was testing PDS-0101 in cervical cancer. This trial was intended to move PDS-0101 up from the last resort for patients who had failed other trials and had no other treatment options before trying something experimental, and was tested in combination with radiation and chemotherapy earlier in the treatment regimen, so that it's moving up and instead of being tested as the last resort after all other things have failed, it's now being tested to see if it can benefit earlier stage patients. And that trial also had preliminary results that showed efficacy and safety that justified continuing and gave some nice efficacy results to justify moving forward. The company also has pipeline products that use the Versamune technology as a carrier for other antigens to be used in other tumor types. One is the TARP antigen in early stage development for leukemia, prostate, and breast cancers. There's also a separate product, PDS-0103, that's developing the Versamune technology in combination with MUC1, an antigen for breast, lung, ovarian, and other solid tumors. One of the key catalysts for the stock will be the start of the phase 3 trial expected in 2023, as well as additional data presentations from the ongoing PDS-0101 trials in the HPV-16 associated cancers. The next company I'd like to talk about is Excella Health. They have a market cap of 67 million, and I rate them outperform and have a price target of $9. Excella is developing drugs using amino acid compositions to modulate metabolic pathways. These are endogenous metabolic modulators, known as EMMs, that are in development for conditions where a disease or cellular damage has caused dysfunction and symptoms to the patient. The company recently announced a phase 2B interim analysis for its trial in NASH, an acronym for non-alcoholic steatohepatitis or fatty liver disease, as well as a long COVID phase 2A trial. The data from the NASH study showed that the product was effective in reducing stiffness in the liver. Although these are interim results, these data showed that after just a small amount of treatment time, less than the full amount, the full length of treatment. At the end of September, Excella announced positive results from their interim analysis of the NASH trial. This trial analyzed data from patients who had been treated for 12 and 24 weeks out of the 48-week treatment period. This study is continuing, and we expect to see additional data from the full study in 2023. The study was designed to test measures of liver stiffness and enzymes that are associated with accumulation of fat and progression of liver disease. The trial showed that measures of liver stiffness measured by a scan correlated with changes in fibrosis and patient outcomes. The analysis also included enzyme levels such as ALT and MRI data showing the fat scans, which all showed a reduction in liver fat and measures that correlate with improving or to normal liver function. A second clinical trial at Excella is using AXA1125 to treat long COVID. This is a condition that arises in about 20 to 35% of the patients who are infected with COVID and have lingering symptoms, which is lack of energy, fatigue, brain fog or clouded thinking, and overall malaise. One of the problems and one of the causes theorized for the development of these symptoms is that the COVID infection affects the metabolism in the cells and some of the energy producing processes going on within them. AXA1125 has been shown to improve metabolic function, and in early testing in a phase 2A trial was able to improve several measures of long COVID. The company is now discussing additional steps for the next phase of development in long COVID for AXA1125. One of the very interesting things about AXA1125 is that it's delivered as a packet. It's a dry powder that looks almost like an oversized sugar packet and is dissolved in water. So patients who have liver disease, diabetes, and other conditions associated with fatty liver disease will be able to add this without additional pills or injections. It's just dissolved in water, and then the patient just drinks it. Very simple and very patient-friendly to use. The next company I'd like to speak about is Onconova Therapeutics, symbol ONTX, with a market cap of $18 million. I rate the stock outperform and have a price target of $7. Onconova is developing drugs that block the signals within cells that lead to cancer cell proliferation. In many cases, cancer is caused by a mutation in one of the receptors or somewhere between the cell signal that is turned on and off, but stuck in the on position, and leads to cell proliferation and uncontrolled processes within the cell. So what Onconova is doing is working on drugs that block these signals that cause the cell to divide uncontrollably and grow as a tumor. The lead product, narazaciclib, is expected to announce results from a dose-finding trial in solid tumors in the first quarter of 2023. The drug acts on what's known as the CDK4/6 pathway. There are 3 drugs on the market that have led to sales over $6 billion when used for breast cancer and solid tumors. An additional indication for narazaciclib was added and is planned to start clinical trials in the first quarter of 2023. That is in combination with letrozole, known as Femara, a drug from Novartis, in low-grade endometrial cancer. Rigosertib, a second product in development, is being tested with the checkpoint inhibitor Opdivo for KRAS-positive non-small cell lung cancer. This is an indication in which rigosertib will be used to stimulate the immune system and help Opdivo have a higher response rate and more efficacy as a checkpoint inhibitor. The next company I'd like to speak about is Ocugen, symbol OCGN, with a market cap of $350 million. A rated outperform with a price target of $5. The company is best known for its drug Covaxin, which is a vaccine for COVID-19. This drug was in-licensed from Bharat Biotech of India, where it was tested and approved and has been administered to about 40 million patients in India and Asia. Ocugen in-licensed Covaxin and had sought FDA approval, but is now going through the approval process and conducting an immunobridging study to verify that the immune response seen in the US population today is similar to what was seen in the phase 3 trial conducted in India in 2020. Those results are expected in the first half of 2023. Ocugen is also developing products for gene therapy using its proprietary technologies. Its first product, OCU400, is in development for retinitis pigmentosa, a condition, a genetic condition in which patients have mutations in any one of 100 genes that can lead to blindness and progressive loss of vision throughout their lives. Ocugen's approach is slightly different from the ones used in other gene therapy products. Most gene therapy products will deliver a single gene to correct a single gene mutation and restore the function that was lost to disease or mutation. Ocugen is developing OCU 400 to correct mutations in what are known as master regulatory genes. These are genes that regulate the processes and expression of other genes in a pathway that would lead or regulate expression and control the development of blindness. By targeting the early stage steps in the regulatory and gene expression process, Ocugen hopes to deliver these genes and have an effective therapy for a condition caused by a multitude of genes. This would restore the homeostasis and prevent blindness in these patients. Thus far, the company has tested the product in 3 dose groups for a total of 10 patients and recently received a positive opinion from the Data Safety and Monitoring Board that they can go forward and dose additional patients at the highest dose tested. Co-Crystal Pharmaceuticals, symbol COCP, has a market cap of about 20 to 25 million, a rated outperform with a price target of $10. Co-Crystal is developing antiviral drugs that act early in the viral life cycle to stop replication. The proprietary technology is based on Nobel Prize winning work from Dr. Roger Kornberg, who won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2006 for his work on RNA polymerase. This became the scientific basis of the company, with Dr. Kornberg as chief scientist and chairman of the scientific advisory board. The products in development are aimed at the enzymes that work early in the viral life cycle and block the production of the virus before it can form and become infectious. This contrasts with other approaches, which typically will stop a virus after it's been formed and infects a patient, or some of the surface proteins that tend to mutate and can render the drug ineffective or resistant to the therapy. Co-Crystal's products in development are for treating influenza, norovirus, the cause of cruise ship illness, and COVID-19. The company's most advanced trial is in influenza, and the company plans to start a phase 2 trial using live virus and a human infectious study. The company's most advanced products are in influenza, COVID-19, and norovirus. The program in influenza has shown pharmacokinetics and plans to move to phase 3 in 2023 with a trial designed to test human subjects and use a live virus, testing the drug's ability to stop the infection. The program in COVID-19 is also moving forward with additional trials expected in 2023. Tonix Pharmaceuticals, rated outperform, symbol TNXP, has a price target of $6.50. Tonix is a company that is developing drugs in areas of neuropsychiatry, pain, and immunology. The lead product, TNX-102XL, is expected to report interim results from a phase 3 trial in fibromyalgia during the second quarter of 2023. The The company expects to announce data from a phase 2 study in long COVID during 2023 as well. 3 products are expected to begin phase 2 studies, including TNX 601 for major depression and TNX 1300 for cocaine intoxication. Since there is no correct dosing for cocaine intoxication is basically cocaine overdose and something that leads to emergency room visits. One of the other interesting programs at Tonix is in smallpox and monkeypox. The company has been developing TNX 801, a drug for smallpox that would be used for the national stockpile, in which the Department of Health and Human Services maintains antidotes for infectious agents that could be used in bioterrorism. Smallpox is one of the diseases that has been identified as a target for bioterrorism, and the current stockpile has a contract value of about $900 million over the next several years. TNX 801 is in development as an improved version of a smallpox vaccine with fewer side effects. The vaccine has also been effective against a similar virus known as monkeypox, which has been in the news and has become one of the most recent threats to public health. So the same product could be used or approved in both conditions. Lineage Cell Therapeutics, symbol LCTX, has a market cap of about $250 million. This is rated outperform with a price target of $9. Lineage Cell is developing cellular-based therapies based on its pluripotent stem cell technologies. The company has started with early stage pluripotent cells and developed methods for them to be influenced and grow into various tissue types and then be used as an off-the-shelf transplant to replace cells that have been damaged by disease or injury. The lead indication and lead product is known as OpRegen, which is a formulation of cells from the retina that has shown positive results in phase 1/2 trials. The condition that OpRegen treats is known as dry age-related macular degeneration, in which the cells of the macula, the part of the eye with the finest resolution and ability to see the most clear details, starts to die and the patients begin to lose vision. This is fairly common in the elderly and affects about 11 million patients in the US. 2 types of age-related macular degeneration are wet, in which blood vessels proliferate and start to kill off the macular cells, or dry, in which an age-related condition, the deterioration of the eye leads to blindness. This is in development for the dry form, which is about 90% of the patients affected. The phase 1/2 results showed that the OpRegen transplant was able to restore vision in areas that were lost or on the periphery of the injured area and dying off. The transplant was able to restore the cells that had been lost, as well as patch the cells that seem to be dying and help avoid their loss. The patients in the trial were able to restore aspects of their vision, both functionally, measured by reading an eye chart and improved vision, as well as through cellular tomography and analysis of the cellular layers in the eye that showed that the transplanted cells are engrafting and becoming functional cells in the macula. Its additional products in development are OPC1, in which the company is developing spinal nerve cells for transplant to cure or treat or improve the condition in spinal cord injury. Preliminary results were very encouraging, and the company expects to file an IND for new clinical trials using a better delivery system and improved technology for formulation in the coming year. Additional products in development are for immune stimulation, known as VAC2, and preclinical development for restoring cells in the photoreceptors and auditory connections. The last group I'd like to talk about are the psychedelic therapies in development for psychiatric disorders. Psilocybin has been used for centuries in folk medicine and in indigenous peoples' rituals, leading to its use in Native Americans and in the 60s as a recreational drug. Early research had shown psychiatric benefits, and since it is structurally similar to serotonin and drugs used for depression and migraine headache, new research started to examine psilocybin for use in treating mental conditions. Initial work led to the formation of companies and high expectations around 2020 and 2021, but since the field became crowded, expectations came down, and with the small cap market, the stock prices fell. Now we're at a point where the state of Colorado has recognized the potential benefits of natural medicines and recently passed legislation to allow clinics in the state to treat patients with psilocybin and natural medicines for psychiatric illness. This is very different than the cannabis legislation, which first allowed medical use and then recreational use. This is only for therapeutic use in supervised settings, but this is a step forward in developing new medicines based on serotonin and analogs that may be acting in a similar way. And there are two companies that I follow, Filament Health and SciBio, that are both under 10 million market cap, but differ from the others in the field in that they both have proprietary technologies for producing psilocybin and similar compounds using methods that lead to pharmaceutical grade consistency and specifications. This transforms psilocybin and what are known as magic mushrooms from a homegrown product into an actual FDA approvable therapy with specifications that are consistent and can be used therapeutically. Filament Health, symbol FLHLF, and SciBio, symbol PSYBF, are both listed in Canada and trade under 10 million in market cap. But these are interesting companies and an interesting field to watch develop. Thank you.
All right, Robert, thank you for that. We have a few questions to go through. This first one pertains to Tonix Pharmaceuticals, and the question is, what important milestones should we look for from Tonix in 2023?
Well, first is their phase 3 trial in fibromyalgia. They had run one trial that showed efficacy, and then a second trial that was interrupted by the COVID lockdown, so that they started a new trial, and that will be presenting interim results in the second quarter of 2023. This is an indication in which the patients would be able to use less opioids for fibromyalgia and have fewer symptoms of overall malaise and insomnia, depression, and the other associated things with fibromyalgia.
All right, excellent. This next question here, this is on Co-Crystal Pharma, and the question is, what stage is the influenza trial in development?
The influenza trial will be testing their lead product in a phase 2A trial in which they're going to be starting in the second quarter of 2023. This is an interesting trial because instead of recruiting people who have influenza come into the clinic with any number of strains acquired in the community, they're going to be testing people, healthy volunteers, who receive a pharmaceutically prepared influenza strain and then have the drug administered to reduce the symptoms, shorten the illness, and show efficacy that way. The difference is that this will give a much more controlled infection and much more reliable data for the parameters of the immune response and allow the trial to be conducted quicker and in a more controlled way that gives better data and tighter specifications for the strain, the patients, and the response rates by the immune system.
Okay, so our next one is on Ocugen, and this one asks, how would Covaxin compete against current drugs already approved in the US for COVID-19?
The current drugs from Pfizer and Moderna are based on messenger RNA and technology that would block the virus that way. The difference in Covaxin is that it's made using the traditional vaccine technology in which a killed virus is used to stimulate an immune response against many different parts of the virus, so that you have a polyclonal response and you could have broader efficacy against many strains. The other difference is that since it's a killed virus, it's established technology and avoids any of the technical or other issues that have caused people to avoid the vaccine for religious or any other reason. The standard technology used for Covaxin has been used in many other vaccines for decades, so it doesn't have any of the controversy surrounding its origins or its use. The other points about Covaxin are that it only requires refrigeration rather than frozen shipment, so it's easier and less expensive to ship out to areas other than the dedicated treatment centers that we saw during the lockdown. It has a long shelf life, so you don't have the risk of obsolescence or expiration, and it can be administered easily in a doctor's office as part of routine office visits. As the COVID-19 landscape evolves from the pandemic and the lockdown to an infection that is treated routinely, this fits in with that type of practice and routine vaccinations as part of office visits.
All right, well, we have time for one more. So this one's on Onconova. Let me see if I can get this question right here. So the question is, what is the market for CDK4/6 inhibitors with Kisqali's growing market share?
The three CDK4/6 inhibitors that I mentioned, Ibrance from Pfizer, Kisqali from Novartis, and Verzenio from Lilly, have sales of over $6 billion and growing. This is a drug that interferes with a pathway that leads to cancer cell proliferation and is often used in breast cancer. So right now, Onconova, the comparison of the data thus far and the preclinical models showing the biomarkers and activity show that it has fewer side effects than Ibrance, Kisqali, and Verzenio, notably neutropenia, which is one of the reasons that patients have to take a week off and rest after 3 weeks of therapy. The phase 1-2 dosing study is being tested both with the 3-week on, 1 week off regimen, as well as every day. So you could have continuous therapy without the interruption. And some of the preclinical data show that it has a broader effect on other modulators of cancer and other segments of the proliferation pathway that can slow down the cancer and lead to better outcomes for the patients.
All right, very good. Well, Robert, that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank you for your very informative presentation and for answering the questions that we had today.
Thank you.